Hare Nama, Hare Nama Kevalam, Kalo Nasti, Eva Nasti, Nasta Eva Katir Anyata. In this age of quarrel and disagreement, Kali Yuga, the only way of spiritual realization is the chanting of the names of Krishna. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So actually, this very difficult version of yoga we see in the modern age, that our body is not even required as much as just our mouths, our concentration, and our attention, the willingness to hear and listen to these names of Krishna. And later verse discusses Chitatmana Prasantasya Paratmata Samahita Sitosna Sukha Dukashu Tata Mana Pramana Yo. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So imagine that. It's talking about, as Prabhupada discusses in the later chapters of this book and throughout the Bhagavad Gita, that the soul is only truly satisfied in our eternal constitutional position, our unique relationship with Krishna, and our full realization, self-realization of who we are as a soul and what our service with Krishna is. So really just embodying and realizing being a divine servant of the Lord. And as Prabhupada says, this is no small thing. He even says he himself was an aspiring servant of the Lord. So following that mood, we can then realize it mentions heat and cold, honor and dishonor, stress and peace. All of that is the same. So I don't know if you guys can imagine, but for me, I still find so much difficulty. If I'm distressed, I find distress. If there's a peaceful situation, there's a peaceful situation. But the only real satisfaction I find is in the chanting of Hare Krishna. So to that, let's do one big Maha Mantra together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai, very nice. So I wanted to have an open discussion a little bit today. I really appreciate in classes when we share our experiences a little bit. So would anyone like to share as terms of, we discuss about how chanting this Maha Mantra is the only way for real spiritual realization. Would anyone have any personal experience they would like to attest to that fact? I can share my own as well. Or any experiences chanting the Maha Mantra. Don't be shy. We can do kind of like a group answer. So how does it feel usually to chant the Maha Mantra? Feel free to call it out, anything. Or during chanting, you may feel anything awakening in your heart, returning of spiritual consciousness. For myself, Prabhupada talks a lot about how in other spiritual practices outside of ISKCON, outside of Hare Krishna, there ends up being a mix of also delusion mixed in with that, and also occasionally what's the word? It's not like hypnosis, but there's some hypocrisy occasionally, and also I suppose delusion is a good enough word. The derangement, or you make it, sometimes things are made up, mixed in between. You're allowed to make up your own things in other spiritual practices. For myself, coming in the Western world, I explored a lot of different spiritual traditions before I came to ISKCON. So there was a lot of that truth I found, some peace or relief from anxiety, a lot of inner work I found. But there was also a lot of what I considered or thought might be spiritual that was actually not, as I realized later. So a lot of it was internal moods or impersonal concepts that were never really satisfying. They all left me continually seeking. And it wasn't until I came to this Hare Krishna movement that I found, oh, finally, there's some actual realization here. When you hear about Krishna's pastimes and hear about an actual spiritual world, then you can start to see, oh, there is this material platform and there's this transcendental platform. So there's even also in other movements or traditions, there's some different ways they can come to transcendence, or other paths of yoga from India as well. That there's some level of transcendence that can be acquired from different movements and practices. But the actual spiritual platform, even higher than that transcendence, I've only found through chanting Hare Krishna. I've only been able to glimpse spiritual world through the Bhagavatam and through Prabhupada's teachings, and through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's access to this Mahamantra. So from that, then you can actually access a real, true spiritual platform. And through Prabhupada's words, like in this Perfection of Yoga, and this book actually was only maybe 45-minute read, very short, but it completely will give you exactly the knowledge you need to know for what is real yoga. One moment, I have a caterpillar. He's made friends with my foot. Will you guys chant Hare Krishna for me? And for the caterpillar? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What a well-behaved caterpillar. As soon as you guys started chanting, he said, oh, I go this way? Krishna's in the heart of all living entities, and even the less intelligent incarnations. Thank you so much. Of insects and things like that. What we're taught in the scriptures is lower consciousness of these animals can still hear and respond with the sound vibration. So that's a nice example provided by Krishna and Prabhupada. So I wanted to also talk about part of the yoga process is a renunciation of work. So Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita that one can only become a true yogi when he is ready to detach from sense gratification. So what is this sense gratification? Desire for sensory pleasures, material objects, these things. This allowing of our senses to pull us from here and there. So he says one is only a yogi when he's ready to renounce our own personal enjoyment, basically. And looking at things in life as for our own enjoyment. When we're ready to detach from that, that's when we can really be a yogi. In addition, he also says, Anashrita karma phalam, karyam karma karotiya, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, na nirganir, na charika. Yeah. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So Prabhupada says, everyone is working and expecting some result. One may ask, what is the purpose of working if no result is expected? A remuneration or salary is always demanded by the worker. But here Krishna indicates that one who can work out of a sense of duty alone, not expecting the results of his activities, one who works in this way is actually a sannyasi. He is in the renounced order of life. According to the Vedic culture, there are 4 stages of life: brahmacharya, grihastha, varnaprast, and sannyas. Brahmacharya is student life devoted to training and spiritual understanding. Grihastha life is married householder life. Then upon reaching the approximate age of 50, one may take the Vanaprast order. That is, he leaves his home and children and travels with his wife to holy places of pilgrimage. Finally, he gives up both wife and children and remains alone to cultivate Krishna consciousness. And that stage is called sannyas, or the renounced order of life. So, there he breaks down more of how, even in these different stages of life, many of you guys may know we have a perfect example of a very young devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, who even at 5 years old had the wisdom to preach Krishna consciousness. And he said, at any age, from a small child to an old adult, can and should start their practice and journey of Krishna consciousness. No part of our life is ever guaranteed. And as Prabhupada discusses in this material world, there is also danger at every step. So because of that, the time is always now to begin our journey of Krishna consciousness. Though he does say that a special time is at the end of life, once all duties and relation. Of course, when you have a family, you have many obligations and responsibilities that can take your life, take up time in your life. So therefore, the end of life is a great time. However, we also can be freer when we're young, or in my current stage of life is that brahmacharya or student life. Hello, welcome. Please come and sit wherever you like. And also in this process of yoga, then we can kind of, even though the end of life is the renounced order, if we're willing to work in the way that Krishna instructs, expecting no result, but simply performing our duty out of love and devotion, or attempted love and devotion, we can start to return to our original consciousness. In this process of self-realization, the chanting of the Maha Mantra is the only way in order to attain that true spiritual consciousness. And part of that is because it is that direct access and sound vibration to Krishna himself. So Krishna and the Maha Mantra are non-different. And as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, even, he directly says, out of all sacrifices, he is the chanting of the holy name. So he's the chanting of the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Great enthusiasm in our chanting here. I love to see it. And also through the chanting of the holy name, that is where, as Krishna says, we can find real rest. He says he's the resting place of souls, and it's because our only true satisfaction can be found in that relationship. Otherwise, we unconsciously remember and we stay consistently searching for that missing piece. It's why also in the different paths of yoga, if someone is more engaged in jnana yoga or karma yoga, we're still not fully satisfied in those efforts because we're missing that element of bhakti. So we're missing that element of love and devotion. Of course, we all know throughout the entire world, everybody craves love. It might look differently from some people. Of course, nowadays, most people are very much after money. So the form of love in Lakshmi Devi are searching for money. And although money is required for our life, we can still work without expecting full results, and just simply trusting Krishna provides for all living entities. Prabhupada discussed this a lot in the lectures I've listened to, his recorded lectures, is that every small ant, every elephant, every animal out there is fully provided for. So why would we ever think that we are not? Very nice. And in the beginning of the class, we talked about how the mind is very difficult to control. However, because our satisfaction is so much lying in Krishna, when we're able to absorb ourselves in the past times, then automatically, not even having to put too much effort in controlling our mind, our thoughts will automatically be attracted to Krishna, the all-attractive. And then it is more. There's a warning with this in the Perfection of Yoga book. One of the verses Prabhupada quotes here is Anatmanastu Shatruvate Vartetatmaiva Satruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So, how is it possible for one to become its own friend? This is explained here. Atma means mind, body, and soul. When we are in the bodily conception and speak of Atma, we refer to the body. However, when we transcend the bodily conception and rise to the mental platform, Atma refers to the mind. But we are situated on a truly spiritual platform, then Atma refers to the soul. In actuality, we are pure spirit. In this way, according to one's spiritual development, the meaning of the word Atma differs. Very nice, good understanding. So you'll see that the mind can be our enemy when we are in this bodily conception of life. When we think the body is who we are, we suffer so much more any pains of the body. When we are identified with our thoughts in our mind, then if our uncontrolled mind says something random, some anxious thought, or then we suffer that so much more because we feel like it's our true reality. But if we come to an understanding of the truly spiritual platform, as Prabhupada says, our identity as a soul, then there's no such material anxiety there. And if we observe from this platform of a witness some discomfort in the mind or body, it's not so much worthy of our attention because something much deeper is going on there. So that realization and identification process then allows us to live a truly more peaceful life. It's something Prabhupada said that I very much appreciate, that even if this is not true, this system we receive from the disciplic succession, these absolute universal truths we are taught, he says it's simply a better way to live your life. Because that true understanding of realization of we are the soul, not the body, leads to that peaceful envelopment and proper engagement of our consciousness. So for me, the easiest way I found to help make my mind my friend is that this spiritual process is so much more interesting than anything else my mind could come up with. So therefore, this chanting of Hare Krishna and learning of Krishna's qualities and pastimes, and there's so much information in the Bhagavad Gita, 12 cantos. What to speak of the Chaitanya Charitamrita and other books Prabhupada has provided us. And even I feel so many days could be spent on just this very small book, The Perfection of Yoga, which again is just like 45-minute, 1-hour read, and completely can change your life and understanding. And you give so much concrete truths in this book. So I brought a stack out if anybody is wanting to take one home with you today or just revisit it in the time in the temple room before prasadam is served. I definitely welcome that. And I wanted to give a few minutes for any questions. Do we have any questions from the audience today? No problem. I opened the page. Prabhupada puts a question here. He said, what is the sign by which one can tell that he has attained perfection in yoga? This is a very nice question, no? Thank you, Jai Prabhupada. He says, Krishna indicates, he answers this, that one is situated in yoga when his consciousness is completely under his control. That's very nice. He says, Yada viniyatam chitam atmani eva vantistate nishpraha sarvakamevyo yukta iti uchyate tada. When the yogi by the practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Very nice. So one who has attained yoga is not dependent on the dictations of his mind. Rather, the mind comes under his conscious control because he is always thinking of Krishna or Vishnu. When one is always engaged in Krishna consciousness in the service of Krishna, then how is it possible for the mind to wander away from Krishna? In the service of Krishna, the mind is automatically controlled. Very nice. Very nice. So Prabhupada makes here very nicely a point I was trying to make, that the mind is much easily controlled when it comes into contact with Krishna the all-attractive, because he is all-attractive. Our mind is automatically attracted there. So through this sincere effort and process, Krishna will help you also bring your mind under control. It's a truth we all understand in the world, that the soul is not meant so much for suffering. We see it in the world, all places people mention, oh, how could this happen? Our souls are not meant to suffer in this way. And it's because we all remember our original consciousness, where there's no such suffering there. So this can be easily found through very nice process, completely free, just chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, Hare Krishna, everybody. And so the feast will be served in this next few minutes, if everybody would like to go there. And if anyone would like to peruse this Perfection of Yoga book before we go, we have the stack up here. Thank you very much.